middle of the tracks?
You know, we didn't do this lightheartedly. We came out here one day for 8 hours. It was rainy, snowy. They came down at the end of the day. They promised to be good, and we took ourselves and went home. 3 weeks later, trains running again, we came back. It was another cold, watery day. They bought us beer down, the guys on the train. Said, we really made a mistake, we're sorry, here's some beer. Won't happen again. We took their beer, went home, drank it up, laughed it up, thought it was solved. 2 weeks later, it was zip, 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 they're back. So that's when we decided we had to take action. We had to do something that was going to get their attention. And Gene Amos had this big old tent that fit right across the track. And we came out and we put it up. And it stayed for 3 days, if I remember, 3 or 4 days. It was quite a stay. The one thing I got about that, there were a lot of people who came down in the evenings and bought us food. They bought coffee. They came down with their support. Some of them printed our leaflets for us.
Remember the Inner City Service Project, which is where the Vancouver East Cultural Center is now. Used to be a multi-community, and they had a bus, and they brought their bus down.
The now bus, yeah. And we would have our meetings in there. You know, we had to hold this all day long, 24 hours a day. We could not leave it. The police didn't really have a big presence. You know, I don't think this is their territory. They weren't called, so really we had no harassment from the police. I was just talking to one of the mothers, and you know, to give this today, we think we'd be shocked. You know, like they come down here and get you.
So you were worried that the railroad would take the tent down? And
we thought someone would be, if we left it, if someone would come and remove the tent.
For sure they would.
Yeah. And when they served us an injunction the first day, after the first day in the tenting, they actually served us with an injunction, and we had to go to court. They hadn't served us properly. And we didn't know that. We went to court, and this young lawyer, Bruce McCall, who has since died, he came over to our group, and he had watched the whole proceedings in court, and he said, let me handle this. They haven't done it right. Well, we had to have a big talk about that, because you know how lawyers are. They want to look good. And
but he did it as a friend of the court for nothing. He just said, let me help you.
And he did it. He was so gracious. And he went in there, and he had the injunction thrown out. He hadn't named any. I think they hadn't named anybody on it, if I remember correctly.
They fixed that later.
And then they went back and they named Sheila and I on the injunction. And we sort of made a pact the night before. You know, Sheila and I needed to hide out because they had to serve one of us. Well, Sheila's smarter. She gets in her car and drives off for the day. I snuck down here very gingerly to make sure everything was going right, and here's this guy, and I didn't like the look of it, so I start moving down the track, but he was smarter than me, and he actually threw it at me, and it hit me. And I tried to outrun him, but he ran and he got me. So we were served, and we had to get back into court the next day.
And the story also, some of you may know, Carolyn's brother is Harry Jerome, the great athlete and sprinter. The one time, remember, we were standing there and she snuck out the back of it, and she's running, and it's probably the only time she could outrun her brother.
I was so mad that I was the one that got trapped. But anyways, it all ended up back in court, and we did get a promise to build the track from the, I think it was B&R that was to build it.
Burlington Northern, because they
were the ones that were responsible, and it was sort of the impetus that brought us together in the community, because on the initial outing that we made, the first time we came out, we did not have the support of everyone in the common area here where we were living. And standing on these tracks, I remember, there's one thing I remember, is when that train was coming, you could feel it in here. You know, you can feel those trains, boom, 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 boom. And we had to hold our ground, and I don't know, I've never forgot that.
There were two tracks at the time.
I think there used to be. I don't know actually.
The picture showed two tracks.
Yeah, 2 tracks.
So they've taken up one, or the old photos show 2.
That's right.
Yeah. Everything was shipped to the ordinary things.
One of the things we...
It was booming, and the trains were loaded and going all the time.
And what would happen is the trains would sit here until they were called into court.
Yeah.
So the port was busy and they'd be waiting trains backed up.
Yeah.
So that's
Good.
why the trains would be sitting on the track until they got radioed that it was their time to come
And then
into the
they'd
port.
shuttle them backwards.
And then
to
bring
get
them back.
onto the right track,
That's
to
right.
get to the right church.
That's-
So they were just like going like this, you know, and the cars would be banging together. And the kids would be trying to time it to...
Caroline, tell the story about the chemical plant.
You know, I have to research that because it could be wrong, but I think we have it. Judy Stainsby isn't here to tell it, and she's the one that did the research on it. Acme Chemicals was in that building, and we think Acme Chemicals was shipping to the United States for the war,
This was during the Vietnam War.
during the Vietnam War. And that's why the pressure to get us off the tracks. There was a really intense pressure. I mean, my brother never called me from Ottawa. And he phoned and he said, "You got to get off those tracks, you know, like get off the tracks." And oh dear, dang, you know, I've got to stop right here, Harry. You know, no, we're not moving. But yeah, there was a bit of pressure to move us. And then, you know, what I got from that is the bullshit that bureaucrats will pass you. And you know, it's never left me. Phoning those people day in and day out to get the trains to stop running, listening to their stories, Carolyn, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. It leaves you with, oh my God, you know, any struggle that you pick up, you've got to get through the bureaucratic bullshit, you know.
And of course, that's the overpass.
It's so ugly. I've never been on it. I refuse to walk on it. Because if that was in West Vancouver, on the west side of town, they would have had a nice looking overpass.
Well, they built that one in
That's a cage.